what are the broad solutions you are seeing? How do you expect the Hindu organizations to fight this? How do you expect a common Hindu to fight this out? I mean, the forces are riled up against him, like what you showed the charts. So many pressures on him, and he's made to feel guilty being a Hindu. How do you see that this fight has to be taken at an individual level, at an organizational level, at a collective group level, or at a governmental level? At various levels, how do you see this fight to be fought?
Right. So it's a very good question, Giridharji, and like you rightly pointed out, this is not a quick fix band-aid kind of solution to the problems that the Hindu civilization has been facing, or the Indian civilization has been facing for thousands of years. It requires a concerted action at many levels. Like you correctly said, from the individual level all the way to the government level, it requires that people have to play a role over here. So the problems, like I pointed out, are not merely the practice of aggressive proselytization. It is not merely the violent actions of a dogma-ridden people. It is not only that. It is also the narration of the ethnocide practiced, internalized, deracinated, and has found expression in our laws, in our constitution, in our day-to-day going about things, in our identity, our view of who we are. So if change has got to come, if we got to take solutions and do that, it's got to come at various levels. And the question is, where does one start? It is an overwhelming uphill task. So I would say there is need to question all of the constitutional provisions that are interpreted in a certain way. I'm not saying change the constitution, but I'd love to have debates happening in the country where we see how are these provisions being interpreted. Is it fair to the notions of equality for all, no discrimination, the state shall not practice discrimination, all of these other laws? We'll have to see which constitutional provision is going against what. Is there, for example, a propensity by the courts to say that the Hindus are a disparate collection of thought systems? They're not a denomination. Therefore, I can take any Hindu practice and say that Ayyappa devotees are not a denomination, and therefore they are practicing human rights violation by not allowing women to go over there. Therefore, I can put some laws and describe how they practice their faith. Is that valid? Does it not go against the notion of everybody's got the right to practice their religion with dignity? So is that not violating that? So questions like this. There are people who say that the constitution is good, but it's the interpretation. Where is the interpretation? What do we do? So precedents need to be set, challenged, and interpretations need to be made. And especially with regard to the control of the Hindu institutions, to the Right to Education Act, to several other issues that impact the identity of the dominant civilization of the country, dominant people in the country, one needs to go and see how can we either start the debates or continue the debates or take the judicial activism all the way to the courts and challenge the workings of some of these things, overturn some of the malicious laws that UPA government has come about, brought about as bills. For example, the anti-superstition bill, which only maliciously identifies only Hindu practices as superstitions, but does not touch any of the Abrahamic practices. And there are God knows how many superstitions there are over there, but it does not do that. So things of this nature. How can laws be set up that discriminate openly? How can you say there has to be a Right to Education Act, but by the way, these groups are excluded from this right to education, and the burden of maintaining the provisions of the law are so great that a Hindu institution cannot afford to be profitable when compared with entrepreneurs from a minority faith. When that happens, the Hindu school entrepreneur is going to close down a school and sell it off to a minority. I have seen that. I've seen that in Bangalore, in my neighborhood, where there was a certain school that had a Hindu chairman. Once a Right to Education came, he could no longer afford to do it, and he sold the school. And guess to whom he sold it? He sold it to some Christian organization. So when you see things of this nature happening, you start asking the questions. What is this Right to Education Act doing? Is it an instrument to really provide education, or is it an instrument to crowd out a certain group of people from the education space? So such debates need to happen. We had to challenge some of these bills that have been brought about in the parliament. We had to reinterpret some of the constitutional provisions and what are they doing? And are there amendments needed to bring it into line with where we are today? So I think at the level of the government, at the level of the judiciary, there are things that can be done. And at the level of groups, Hindu groups and others, we can increase the level of activism and informing people through social media and other conferences and things like that about how these things are impacting their expression. At the level of the individual, we can lodge complaints and other things in schools that practice expression discrimination. That is the one that impacts most of us because our children go to schools, they experience discrimination there. We can exercise our vote once the vote is done to the right people. Third, to hold elected people accountable. Don't let them go. Don't let them go. Hound them constantly and ask them, why is my interest not being taken care of? So the activism needs the participation of people in the democracy. That's our dharma today. Democracy is our dharma. So we need to ramp up our participation in this democracy, make sure our voice is heard, and make sure this activism happens. So no easy answer, Giridharji, to your question. At all levels, there needs to be re-examination. At all levels, we need to find a role for ourselves in changing the narrative. I think it can be done, but then we need to get people out of tamas. We are deeply in tamas in the way we think and operate. So our tamas makes us sit back and relax and say it's somebody else's problem. No, it is your problem. It has come to your doorstep. It has come to your house, and you need to take care of it.